Hi everyone, George here. I'm with Tai Strietman.
Hey guys.
And this is the Biotope Aquascape that we created yesterday evening here at Tropica Aquarium Plants for Tropica Live. So if you haven't seen that workshop yet, you can watch the full replay that's out now on the Tropica Aquarium Plants YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the description as per usual. But I wanted to go through this scape in a bit more detail with Tai's help, because he's the one that came up with the design and aquascape. So talk us through, Tai.
So basically it's based on the Rio Sucuri in Mato Grosso do Sul in Brazil, which is a karst river, which is a river that's fed by natural springs that have come up through a limestone bedrock.
We can get some B-roll of this, can't we?
Yeah, and maybe we can put in the photo that inspired this particular tank.
Absolutely, let's do that.
And so these rivers are actually crystal clear because the water has just come out of the ground. For the first few kilometres, they are, as you can see, really clear, and that's before the sediment and detritus from the forest and the surrounding area gets into the water. So along those stretches, you've got loads and loads of plant growth. Because the water is so clear and you've got the tropical sun, it allows for lots of macrophytes, aquatic plants, to develop.
Macrophytes?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. Big plant. That's what phytes? What's this phyte mean?
Well, phytes like...
growth.
No, yeah, you've got to call me out now.
Oh, we don't know. We'll edit that bit out, maybe.
We say macrophytes. Aquatic vegetation, macrophytes.
Got it.
And you've got a number of species that grow there, such as Echinodorus macrophyllus, which is a plant that we can't get hold of in the hobby.
Yeah.
But we've substituted it here with Echinodorus aquatica and Echinodorus renai.
Which is the ready one, which is at the front here.
Yeah, which are cultivars.
I'm just blocking the light there. So that's the renai,
Yeah.
Echinodorus renai, which is a cultivar. And the aquatica is also a cultivar.
And then you've got Palifolius,
which is a wild
one. And the reason we've used these three is that as they develop and grow, the renai will get pinkish reddish leaves. The aquatica will broaden out as well. The Palifolius will also expand. They'll simulate Echinodorus macrophyllus in its various forms and stages in the river.
Yep.
You get leaves that are slightly greener, leaves that are pinker, leaves that are broader, shorter, others that go up through the surface. So we've tried to do that with these three species. We've also got Helanthium bolivianum quadricostatus, which is this low-growing carpeting.
Used to be called Echinodorus quadricostatus, and then they reclassified it to Helanthium bolivianum.
And this is a plant that you find in the river there, normally growing about 15 to 20 centimetres long and really red to like burgundy colours from the sun.
Really?
Yeah, like
the whole leaf or just stripes?
the whole leaf.
Oh wow.
So we can stick an image of that in here.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. Please do.
And then we've got the lovely little round leaves, this Hydrocotyle verticillata. And this is another carpeting plant, and out there in the rivers you just get it growing for metres and metres and metres and metres of it, often in really strong flow.
Can we get some footage of that as well?
Yeah. And so we've, in this shallow design, we've done a little slice of that.
Yeah.
You could do this in any size tank really, but we've worked with this one here.
Let's walk around the front. So talk us through the hardscape and what was your decisioning there?
So we got this lovely piece of curved wood from Wio.
Which is called Neptune wood, I believe.
Neptune wood, which I hand selected on video talking with Iago out in Barcelona.
Yeah, shout out to Iago.
And he sent it to us. And so in the river, where you've got lots of aquatic plants, you don't actually have lots of hardscape because you don't...
Go ahead.
Where you've got lots of plants growing in the river, you don't have lots of hardscape because you don't have trees hanging over the river and shading it.
Right.
So you don't have a lot of wood falling in, unless it's an entire tree that's fallen from an opposite bank and crashes across the whole river.
Gotcha.
It's a little difficult for us to mimic.
Just a bit.
But you do get the odd bit, and normally it's covered in the rasp marks of various loricarids, armoured catfish, like Ancistrus, Hippostomus,
Plex.
Big Plex, yeah. And we've put some of this spiky moss on, and we've only put it in a little area because, as I told you last time, normally you don't find lots of moss there because the fish just bulldoze it all off. It doesn't. It's not able to grow. But we've put a little bit on. This is the Taxiphyllum
spiky.
So
it originates from Asia, but we used a little bit of artistic licensing.
And it just softens the hardscape a bit. It blends into the plants.
Yeah.
And it's quite an attractive plant.
It is lovely.
So the substrate we've used is this mixture of pale substrates from Wio. We've got Wio Heaven and Wio's Cimarron. And this is to simulate the kind of substrate we'd see out there in the Rio Sucuri, which is a mixture of fine sands, crushed snail shells, slightly larger granules, and occasionally organic matter that leaves sort of darker grey to black areas of substrate. So it's quite bright actually when you're moving over the river.
Yeah.
And I think it adds a really nice fresh look to the tank.
Agreed.
Even as a biotope, biotopes are always sort of as kind of dark and murky and a bit,
Yeah, people often associate
shiny.
like black water
Yeah.
with biotope, don't they? But they're so, a biotope is a slice of nature, and of course nature is so diverse, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get clear water, white water,
Well, like I was saying,
lots of plants, no plants.
like I said to you earlier, the same stretch of river can be very varied. So the Rio Sucuri and other similar rivers in that region, the first few kilometers are like this, and then as it goes on and gets deeper and there's more forest around it and more sediment is entering it, more organic material, the water starts to get murkier, you don't get very many aquatic plants, and eventually it's almost no visibility.
Yeah.
So they're quite unique stretches of water. Fish that we're going to use.
Just pause there. We did add a layer of Tropica substrate as a base layer, and then we also sprinkled 5 capsules of the nutrition capsules to help feed the plants, because these are all heavy root feeders, apart from the Hydrocotyl verticillata, which can actually be used as a floating plant.
Yeah, and like I told you, I've seen it where it's been uprooted either by strong currents or sometimes fish sort of rubbing around in the substrate. It's lifted up and gets caught on tree branches that are hanging down or on driftwood, and just starts growing in the water column and getting its nutrients from the water column with aerial roots, if you like.
Yeah, it's excellent. And shout out to Wio, who did supply the aquarium. This is a Vistas 75F, which measures 25 centimetres tall. What was it, 70 centimetres?
75 centimetres.
So, of course, because it's a 75F.
40
and then 40 front to back. So I think it's a really lovely size, actually, quite unique.
It is unique, and it's just long enough and broad enough that, it sits really nicely, and you can do quite a lot with it. As I said, this is a scape that you could do in a huge tank, a medium tank, a small tank.
Deep tank, shallow tank.
Exactly.
So these will eventually try to obviously grow out the surface.
Paleophorus definitely will.
Yeah.
The other ones, like the Renai and the Aquatica, may reach the surface and sort of lay flat. So we're sort of simulating the river perhaps when the water is at its lowest at a really shallow point.
Right, okay.
Because most of it is between 1 metre and 2 metres deep.
Yeah.
And the big Echinodorus macrophyllus can grow almost 1 metre tall.
Right, okay.
So even if we could get it, it wouldn't be ideal in this size tank.
Now normally I'd say to the audience, what fish would you put in here? But we already know.
Yeah.
What fish are we going to put in here, Tai?
We're going to put Hyphosebrychon equis, which is the Serpe tetra, also known as the Mato Grosso. It's bright red tetra that's found in the river. We'll only put maybe 5 or 6 in here, and you find them in small groups moving around through the plants in the river or near the banks in larger groups. There are other fish that you could include, so the Farloella, the twig catfish.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Corridorus aeneas.
How big do the Corridorus aeneas get?
3-4 centimetres over time.
So not massive.
Not huge. Otocinclus, a species you could use.
Yeah. Would that be biotope correct then, all these fish? Yeah. Might be worth getting some ottos in there for algae control, but they are shoaling fish, aren't they? They do like to be kept in.
Even a small group of them would be okay.
Yeah, like 6.
Ancistrus species are found here. Hippostomus basilisco is a big loricarid, so if you wanted to do that, you'd need a much larger tank.
Yeah.
But that's an option. You could also include a tetra called Phenocaugaster tegatus, which is known as the 3-spot tetra.
Okay.
You do find them in the hobby. They're quite weird and wonderful. You could even, if you were thinking about maybe doing sort of the margins of this river, there's a tetra there which looks very much like our red-eyed tetra.
Yeah.
Munchausia sancta Philomena.
Oh, I love those.
Well, the local version is Munchausia forestae, but you find them there. So
My favourite Munchausia is Munchausia costae.
From the Rio San Francisco basin.
I've seen like big, huge shoals of them, and they just school so beautifully.
You need to come to Maidenhead Aquatics Summerhill.
Okay.
Because they've got a big display tank with lots of them in there, and they're big and chunky and beautiful.
Oh wow. And they do that schooling behaviour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are lovely fish. They're absolutely beautiful. So there's a variety of species that you could use in here. And I just think it's nice to have this sort of fresh greens. There'll be some pinks and reds in there from the Echinodorus.
Yeah.
And then we have these bright red little fish in here darting around.
It's going to be amazing. And we probably put the fish in here in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I think we should let it mature.
Let the plants get some nutrient upload ready. Lighting's quite unique because we can get this ripple effect because it's the old, it's the Weo bamboo,
I'll ripple it
which is yeah.
Look at that.
So if we had a bit more surface agitation, let's do that. There we go.
Nice.
You get this. Some people don't like it, some people love it. I actually quite like it, but I think it has to be for the right scape.
Yeah.
So something like this, which is representing, you know, a bit of a river, stream, and you get this ripple effect in nature, don't you? Because that's basically what this is like a mini sun.
Yeah.
Because it's point source. So if you look at the tanks in the background, these are all T5 fluorescent, so you get a very flat uniform light. You don't get any of this ripple effect, but because this is, you know, this is point source, bear with me, just one, you know, it's actually a matrix of tiny LEDs on the same chip with this lens that spreads the light slightly, but you end up with this really beautiful shimmer effect, because what happens is the light gets refracted by the ripples. It acts like a sort of a magnifying glass in essence, and then you get the shadows cast on the substrate and the plants, and I just think it looks really natural.
One thing to point out is the way we planted the carpeting plants. So normally people think of planting carpeting plants and sort of block their own species.
Yeah.
So
we've mixed them up.
We've mixed them up because that's how they're often found
in nature.
This sort of complete mosaic, and it will prevent it being too linear as well.
Yes.
You know,
we don't like our linear.
You certainly don't. I can handle a bit more, but I'm learning from you that it's not allowed.
Not very naturalistic.
Yeah. And so you get this nice mixture of textures and heights through the carpet. One other thing is, as you were saying the other day, the Helanthium can be quite a brute. It can take over.
Yeah, absolutely.
So by having the hydrocotyle denying it space elsewhere, will restrict it from dominating too much.
Okay, that's clever. So bearing in mind this is less than 24 hours old, this scape, we have planted it so heavily, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think we used 10 pots of the hydrocotyle verticillata. How many pots of the...
10 of the Helanthium.
Yeah, so 20 pots of the carpeting. Just a couple of pots of the Echinodorus renai and the Pulviflorus and the... Which other one?
Aquatica and Palefolius.
Yeah, so, but these are, they're all going to grow quite significantly. We will put CO2 on here. This is a powerful light. This is 70 watts of LED, obviously on a shallow tank. Worth mentioning the cabinet, the woody cabinet, very cool. We haven't got the studio lights on at the moment, so it is a bit dark, but I quite like the cinematic effect, just this being lit up and dark everywhere else. Here's the Brazilian scape that we did about 4 weeks ago now, going through some dramas, but there's an update video on that coming soon, which we talk about those dramas on the Tropica YouTube channel. I think that's about it. We're going to do the regular maintenance. We'll be dosing some liquid fertilizers soon to make sure the plants are well fed through their leaves as well as through their roots with the Tropica substrate and the Tropica nutrition capsules. It was a great workshop, wasn't it? It was just over an hour. We had loads of great B-roll from your experiences and diving and snorkeling in Brazil, and I just want to say thanks for coming and making this Tropica live in this scape so amazing.
Thank you for inviting me, and it was brilliant to come here with you and be here with the Tropica team and get to do this. It was a real amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'm quite proud of what we did. And
especially, I think it's done a great job, mate. Well done. I'm pleased.
Go from strength to strength as it grows in.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll call it there. Thanks for watching, guys. As usual, you take care. Keep on scaping. Cheerio.